This is a DJI Neo drone, and this is a DJI Mavic 4 Pro. Obviously, they are poles apart in terms of capability and pricing, but they do share one thing in common. They shoot video. And of course, you need to be able to get that video from the drone onto your computer to edit it. And get rid of the bits you don't want and put the bits you do in order with titles and transitions, perhaps music, and so on. I'm David Haig from Australian Video Camera and Creative Content, and in this video I will show you how. As you'll already know, generally a DJI drone stores its files on a micro SD card, but some models, such as the Air series and the Flip for example, do have internal memory as well. The first thing we need to do is get the files from the drone onto your computer so that we can edit them. There are a number of ways to achieve this. For the purpose of this video, I'm assuming you're using Windows, but the methods are roughly the same for all operating systems. There are three potential ways of getting the video files from your drone to your computer so they can be edited. If your drone has built-in memory and you've stored your footage in that, you need to connect your drone to the computer via a USB-C cable. When you turn the drone on, the computer will see the drone's memory as an external hard disk, letting you copy the files to the computer. Many newer computers have a built-in SD card reader, and by placing the SD card from the drone into this reader, you can copy the files directly to the computer. Finally, you can copy the files from the SD card using an external card reader connected to the computer by USB-C cable. Whichever method you use, you need to have 2 copies of the File Explorer open on your computer. I recommend creating a new folder on your hard disk for every video project. This way, it is easy to keep track and also find things again at a later stage. Also make sure you use names for folders that are meaningful. For example, I have a top-level folder for different drones and cameras, and then inside that folder, a folder for each project shot on that device, with the name of the project, holiday, or whatever. I'm assuming you understand the basics of navigating, creating, and naming folders, but if not, I recommend the tutorial at the address below. In this shot, I have the files of the SD card in the window on the left, and the one on the right is my hard disk, with the folder open I want to copy the files to. The file system of a DJI drone on an SD card is very specific in its structure. The video files you want are in the folder DCIM, so you need to open that folder first. Next is a folder called 100 Media, and this stores the MP4 files which contain the recorded video. For the sake of this tutorial, the only files we are interested in are the MP4 files. These are the actual high-resolution video files the drone has recorded. The other types stored in the 100 Media folder and other folders such as MISC include thumbnail images, geolocation data, altitude and camera settings, and panorama shots. All you need to do is drag the files from the window on the left, the drone, to the window on the right, your hard disk. Note, this will copy the files, leaving the originals intact. In order to remove the bits of video and audio we don't want, assemble these edited files together, and add music and titles, we need to use a video editing program. There are many programs available, but here I'll be using DaVinci Resolve for a number of reasons. Firstly, it is available for Windows and Mac computers. Secondly, once you grasp the basics, learning the advanced features you can do at your own pace. And thirdly, it's free. To get Resolve for your computer system, you need to go to the Blackmagic Design website and download it. It's quite a large file, so it will take a bit of time. Once you have the installer file on your hard disk, simply double-click it to open it and then follow the prompts. After installing DaVinci Resolve, double-click its icon to start the program. When Resolve first starts, you'll be shown the Project Manager. This is my current Project Manager, but of course, initially this will be empty. To create a new project, click the button and give it a name. Along the bottom of the main window is a series of icons. These show the various sections of DaVinci Resolve. The one we are using for our editing is the third from the left, so make sure this is selected. This is the main editing page of DaVinci Resolve, already loaded with a project. There are 4 main windows you need to become familiar with. First is the media window, and this contains all of the video clips, still images and audio files you want in your finished video. Next is the timeline. The timeline contains video and audio tracks where you place, in sequence, the content that makes up your completed video. You can see the time across the top on the ruler. Above the timeline and to the left is the source window, and it is in this window you place clips and define the sections of each clip you want to appear in the final video. Finally, the top right window is the playback window, and this displays the completed video as it's being assembled. There are 2 more windows that will now open that you will also use a lot. These are the toolbox and the inspector. The toolbox contains access to such things as titles, transitions and effects, whilst the inspector will give you access to all the parameters of an individual clip, such as its position, or if an audio file, its volume for example. To open the toolbox, click the effects button at the top left and then choose Toolbox. For the inspector, click Inspector at top right. Now we'll take a closer look at the timeline window. If you look carefully, you can match the content of each of the video tracks to an element in the playback window. There are 3, the main video of the trees, the titles in the bottom left, and the logo in the top right. Each of these has its own video track. Tracks in the timeline are said to be stacked. Tracks higher up are said to be on top of tracks below. So in this example, the logo is on the top track, the title is below it, and the video of the trees at the bottom. The logo and title tracks have transparency. With the logo track, because the rest of the image apart from the logo component is transparent, the track below it, the title, shows through. And because the title track has transparency, the video below it, the trees, also shows through. The easiest way to imagine this is to have 3 identical sheets of glass stacked on top of each other. On the top sheet, you have placed a small picture, the logo. On the next piece of glass, you have another small image, the title. But on the bottom sheet of glass, the image takes up the whole sheet. If I move the bottom track up 1, you can see that we no longer see the title as the trees video has no transparency. If it goes up 1 more, so it's on the top, you can't see the logo either. Audio tracks are also stacked, but of course they can't have transparency. Instead, you can control the volume of each track separately. Here, we only have 1 audio track, and the volume is shown by the waveform. The higher the white areas, the louder the volume. In DaVinci Resolve, you create a project, and all your projects are stored in the Project Manager, as you see here. When you first start DaVinci Resolve, you will see the Project Manager. Double-clicking an existing project will, of course, load that project. When you create a new project from this window, you'll start with this window, an empty project. What we need to do is place into the media window all the clips that will be in the final video. Note, you do not need to have all the clips, stills and audio, called assets, there right from the start. You can add assets as you build the video, but I find it good practice to have as many available as possible before I start cutting up clips and so on, and adding them to the timeline. In Resolve, delete and backspace work differently. Backspace will delete any selected clip and leave the rest of the timeline intact. Delete, however, will move all clips down to fill the space that was taken by the deleted clip. The first thing we'll do is get our 2 clips. We go to the File, Import, Import Media menu and choose the file or files we want. To select more than one file, simply hold down the Control key as you select the extra files and then click OK to load them into the media window. Once loaded, you'll see thumbnails of each of the clips, and if you drag your mouse over the top of any clip, it will play the contents in the source window. Our 2 clips are now in the master bin. Later, as your projects grow and get more complex, with lots of clips and stills and other assets, you can add new bins with their own names and save specific clips into those bins to make them easier to find and manage. If the thumbnails are too small, you can increase the size with this slider. You can also change the display from thumbnails to a list via these three icons. Now we'll edit our first clip to get just the portion we want. We do this by dragging the clip onto the source window. Notice the play controls under the window. Using these, you can play, pause or stop, or go to the beginning or the end of a clip. You can also drag the slider along a clip. At the top, an indicator tells you how long a clip is, and another indicator tells you at what point in the clip the playhead is at. For this clip, we want to select the start at 11 seconds. We can either play the clip to that point and hit stop, or simply drag the playhead to that point. To mark this as the start of our edit, we press the I key, which marks the in point. Now we find the exit or out point by moving the playhead to that position. In this case, that is 2 minutes and 22 seconds, giving us a 2-minute 11-second clip. As you might guess, you mark the out point by pressing the letter O. Resolve then highlights the segment of the clip, as you can see. It's important to note that DaVinci Resolve is a non-destructive editor. In other words, if you mark in and out points, the rest of the clip is still intact as the original. Resolve is only making a pseudo copy of the segment you have selected. At a later stage, when you become more familiar with Resolve, you might look at getting a speed editor console, which, as the name suggests, makes the editing process much faster and more precise. Now we have our clip segment defined, we need to place that on the timeline on a video track. There are a number of ways of doing this, but the simplest at this point is to click and drag the clip in the source window, the one you just marked the in and out point in, to the playback window. When you do, a menu will pop up. Here, you have a number of options depending on what you're trying to do. For this exercise, we simply want to overwrite the clip segment onto the blank area of the timeline, and the clip and the audio appear in new video and audio tracks Resolve has created on the timeline. The timeline playhead, the red line, is at the end of this clip. You can send the playhead back to the beginning of the clip by pressing the home key, or use the transport controls in the playback window. We can repeat this process to add our second clip to the timeline directly after the first. In this example, I'm selecting another piece of the main clip to create the second one by setting an in point at 2:23 and an out point at 2:55. Remember, if you are creating your second and subsequent pieces from different clips, all you need to do is drag the clip from the video window to the source window, find the in point you want and press I, and then the out point and press O. This time, choose Append instead of Overwrite to add this clip directly after the first clip. If you now want to add a third clip, but between clips 1 and 2, make sure the timeline playhead is on the join between the two existing clips. Next, you'd mark your in and out points, and when dragging to the timeline, choose Insert. The clip to the right will move up to allow the clip to be inserted. This is called rippling. The join is called an edit point, and to navigate from edit point to edit point, press the up or down arrows to jump forwards and backwards between them. You can now play the timeline using the transport controls to see your work so far. If you need to lengthen or shorten a clip on the timeline, simply drag its edge in or out. There are more advanced options such as slip, slide and roll, and I'll cover these in a later tutorial. Depending on the content, the jump from clip to clip might appear a little jarring. To soften this, we can add a transition so that one clip smoothly blends into the next. In order to do this, we need to open the transition panel in the toolbox. The transition we want to add is called Cross Dissolve. Simply click and drag the Cross Dissolve button onto the edit point between clips 1 and 2 on the timeline. A white box will surround the join, showing the duration of the transition. You can make it appear longer or shorter by dragging this box wider or narrower. The clip 2 is nice and smooth. If you want, repeat the process for clips 2 to 3. Be very sparing of transitions. They are designed to simply make a transition from one scene to another, not become a focal point of the movie. Too many or too flashy transitions are as bad as too many or flashy special effects, and nothing but nothing screams amateur more than overdoing either. Have a look at films from the top producers and directors, such as Stanley Kubrick or George Lucas, and they only use transitions when they really have to. The second last thing we'll do in the editing process is add a title to our little movie. This is very easy to do. In the toolbox on the left is a button called Titles. Click it to open up the Titles section. There are plenty to choose from, but for this exercise, we'll choose a simple text title as shown. Drag the text button up to the start of the blank video track above our 2 video clips. Once placed, click on the very end and drag it to cover both clips. Double-click the title track and the titles window will open in the inspector. Change the basic text heading to whatever you want, then select all the text by dragging over it and choosing a font. If you drag the scroll bar of the title window down, you'll see more options. Use the position options to place the text where you want it, change the colour of the title if you wish, and add a drop shadow. For headings, choose a bold font. I tend to use Impact for all of my headings. The last image we want to add is a graphic like you see in the top right. This was created in Photoshop and given a transparent background. It is simply dragged to the timeline, making sure it is on the top track, and then the right hand edge clicked and dragged to where you want it to finish. The last element of our video is the soundtrack. I've used one created with Sonic Fire Pro for this clip. Simply drag your sound file to the audio track on the timeline. You can also alter the volume in the audio section of a selected clip in the inspector along with other parameters. The final step is to render our movie. Rendering collates all of the assets and turns them into a single clip. This is performed in the delivery section of Resolve. To get to this, click the very last icon in the list along the bottom of the Resolve window. All the parameters you need to set are in the settings window at the left. For this clip, change the format to MP4, make sure the codec is H.264, and use whatever file name you want the rendered clip to be named and the folder where it's to be saved. Also, make sure the render entire timeline is set. Once that is done, click the Add to Render queue. Finally, click the Render All button and Resolve will create the finished clip. The time to render depends on the number and length of clips, the number of titles, transitions, special effects, audio and so on. A short movie like this should only take a minute or 2 at most, but for long and complex timelines, expect anything up to hours depending on the length and the speed of your computer. When the clip is rendered, find it in your Windows Explorer or Finder on the Mac and play it. And that is the basics of creating a movie and DaVinci Resolve. I stress this is only the very basics, as Resolve is capable of far, far more than this, and I urge you to experiment and play. Remember, it is a non-destructive editor, so you cannot damage your original clips. If you'd like to have a written manual, there is a PDF download at the Blackmagic website. The web address is on your screen. I hope this video has been helpful. To see other tutorials from Creative Content, go to the YouTube channel web address you see on the screen, and please subscribe to be advised of new tutorials when they become available. If you have any comments, questions or suggestions, feel free to contact me with the email address at the bottom of the screen. I'm David Hay from Creative Content, and thanks for watching. After completing the bulk of this video, I realised there was one section I possibly didn't cover enough. When using DaVinci Resolve, there are a very important pair of icons you need to understand, and these both appear in the track header of each video and audio track. In each video track is an icon labelled V with a number next to it, such as 1, 2, and so on. Similar items appear in each audio track, A1, A2, etc. When you click these to select them, they will show an orange border, and only one video and one audio track can have this border at any one time. When a video or audio track has this border, it means it is the currently selected track or tracks to receive the next import from the source window or media pool. For example, if you have a clip in the source window that has video and audio, when you wish to add it to the timeline via one of the various methods, the highlighted video and tracks will receive the video and audio portions of the clip respectively. If you don't want to send the audio track as well as the video, just make sure no audio track has the orange highlight by clicking it, and vice versa, of course, if you only want to send the audio. The other icon in each track is called the Auto Track Selector and is represented by this symbol. When a track has its Auto Track Selector highlighted, it means that the next addition to the timeline will affect the content of this track, if applicable. If it is turned off, the track will not be affected. In this first example, you can see that when the video content is inserted, all affected tracks will ripple up to allow that content to be added, but they will still retain their place. When the Auto Track Selector is off for all other tracks, they will stay in place. But notice that even though the Auto Track Selector is on, tracks to the left of the insertion point and last hour covering the insertion point do not move. I cannot stress how important it is to understand this one factor of DaVinci Resolve, and once you do, it will make your editing life so much easier and faster. Over 25,000 people have now watched the tutorials on the Creative Content and Australian Video Camera YouTube channel. In these, I cover everything from getting started with video editing, basic photography skills, using cameras and camcorders, plus accessories such as gimbals, filters, lighting, and audio. There are also dedicated GoPro videos, tutorials on drones and the regulations you should follow, and of course, reviews of hardware and software. Additionally, I explain the very core knowledge that you need to get the best from your camera, camcorder, GoPro or drone. Things like ISO, shutter speed, aperture, depth of field, slow motion and more, all in easy to follow, non-technical terms. Simply subscribe to my YouTube channel at this web address to be notified of new tutorials as they are posted. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please do let me know. My email address will follow down below. All of this is only possible due to my sponsors, Blackmagic Design, Sennheiser, and Global Drone Solutions. Please support them. I'm David Haig. Once again, thanks for watching and supporting creative content in Australian video camera for the last 20 years.